Chapter 1. The Explosion in Lab 2B. You know that smell of burnt sugar and regret? That was the scent of my Tuesday afternoon. It all started in Lab 2B. AP Chemistry 3rd period. Also known as the hell dimension, where I shared lab tables with Nolan freaking Rivers. A walking GPA, a trust fund with a face, and my personal nightmare in expensive sneakers. He was the kind of guy whose lab reports smelled like cologne and came with color-coded graphs. I once spilled hydrochloric acid on his notes by accident. He didn't even flinch, just printed new ones from his iPad. I hated how calm he was. I hated how good-looking he was even more. But I digress. Mrs. Brooks was rambling on about bonding and valence electrons when she dropped the bomb. For the final science fair, you'll be working in pairs. Chosen. At. Random. I started sweating like I was wearing a sauna suit in Arizona. And of course, because the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Guess who I got? Nolan freaking Rivers. He turned to me, all smooth and smirky. Looks like we're chemistry partners, Liam. Great, I muttered. Can't wait to see how you turn this into a TED Talk. He chuckled like I was a puppy biting at his ankle. We were oil and water, fire and ice, top of the class and barely scraping by. But we were now officially stuck together for the biggest project of the year. Mrs. Brooks clapped. You'll have until the science fair in 4 weeks. Impress the judges, and it's a guaranteed college scholarship slot. That got my attention. College wasn't a dream for me. It was survival. I needed out. Out of my small town. Out of my part-time job bagging groceries. Out of this classroom where Nolan Rivers looked at me like I was a curious science experiment he was eager to dissect. We met after school in the library. Nolan arrived 10 minutes early, of course, sipping a $7 smoothie and tapping away on a silver MacBook. Nice of you to show up, Liam, he said when I finally slid into the seat across from him. Sorry, I was busy not having a private driver, I snapped. He raised an eyebrow. Touché. We stared at each other for a beat too long. He had these stupidly sharp cheekbones and hair like he'd just stepped out of a shampoo commercial. I probably had pen ink on my chin and yesterday's coffee breath. Let's not waste time, he said. I've already narrowed our project down to 3 ideas. One involves bioluminescent bacteria, one is quantum resonance imaging, and the last is… Whoa, stop. We're in high school, not NASA. I proposed something simple, a heat-sensitive chemical reaction demo that looked cool and actually worked. He rolled his eyes. You're underestimating the judges. You're overestimating your ability to look cute while covered in vinegar and iodine, I shot back. He actually laughed. And for a second, I hated that I liked the sound. 2 days later, we were testing our first experiment in Lab 2B after school. It involved baking soda, a custom-built containment bottle, and just a bit too much hydrogen peroxide. You're supposed to slowly pour, I yelled. It's under control, he said just as the mixture exploded like a bottle rocket. Thump. Pink foam burst across the room like a volcano on prom night. I slipped. He tried to catch me. We both fell. I landed on top of him. Breathless. Sticky. Covered in pink slime. He blinked up at me. You smell like strawberries in danger, he whispered. You're ridiculous. You're still on top of me. I scrambled to my feet, blushing so hard I could have powered the Bunsen burner. Back home, I stared at my phone. Nolan had texted me. Nolan. That was unexpectedly fun. You okay? Me, physically? Yeah. Mentally? Mildly traumatized. Nolan, let's make more explosions tomorrow. I bit my lip. Me, sure. I'll bring the danger. You bring the strawberries. Chapter 2, Detention and Discoveries. There's something uniquely humiliating about sitting in detention for a science project. I mean, come on. Most kids land here for vaping in the bathroom or punching someone in the parking lot. But no, me. I'm here because Nolan Rivers and I accidentally recreated Mount Vesuvius in the chem lab. The worst part, he was already there when I walked in. Feet propped on the desk. Leather jacket over his uniform, like we were suddenly in a CW drama. Didn't think you'd show, he said without looking up. I'm not you. I can't buy my way out of this. He smirked. True, but I could have paid someone to take my place. Let me guess. They'd also have a jawline carved by angels. He finally looked up. So you've noticed. God, he was infuriating. And hot. But mostly infuriating. Mrs. Clemens, our vice principal/dungeon keeper, shuffled to the front of the room and muttered something about writing essays on lab safety violations. Then she pulled out a romance novel the size of a watermelon and promptly ignored us. The first 30 minutes were quiet. Too quiet. Nolan tapped his pen on the desk. I chewed on my hoodie strings. Finally, he broke the silence. You always this tense, or is it just me? Only when I'm stuck in a room with an emotionally constipated Ken doll. He laughed, genuinely laughed. Okay, that was good. I deserve that. You deserve a lot of things, I muttered. Another pause. Then his voice softened. You know, I didn't always have everything. That stopped me. Excuse me? He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, suddenly serious. My mom died when I was 10. Dad buried himself in work. Money doesn't fix that. Trust me. I blinked. This was not the conversation I expected in detention. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you see me as some rich kid with zero depth. Aren't you? He gave a slow, crooked smile. Guess you'll have to find out. We were alone in the room now. Mrs. Clemens had wandered off to yell at a freshman for breakdancing in the hall. Classic. Nolan turned to me. You've got this whole angry genius thing going on. It's kind of hot. Excuse me? Don't act surprised. You flirt with your sarcasm every time we talk. I don't flirt, I said, even though my ears turned traitor red. He leaned in just a little. You also ramble when you're nervous. Like now. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to kiss him. My brain chose option C, awkward silence. He reached out, like he was going to touch my hand. My fingers twitched. Then slam, the door flew open. Mrs. Clemens waddled back in with a stack of confiscated fidget toys and a half-eaten muffin. We jumped apart like we'd been caught making out. We hadn't. Yet. Time's up, she barked. Out. Outside, the sky was streaked with orange and pink like a watercolor painting. We walked side by side in silence for a bit. Then Nolan said, Hey, Liam? Yeah. If I kissed you, would you punch me or kiss me back? Depends. On what? On whether you shut up about your smoothie obsession for 5 minutes. He grinned. Deal. But he didn't kiss me. Not yet. Instead, he reached out and hooked his pinky around mine as we walked. Casual. Subtle. And completely electric. Chapter 3. Heat of reaction. Let me tell you something about late-night lab sessions. They're supposed to be quiet, focused, and completely free of hormonal tension. Ours? Not so much. It was Friday, the school was practically empty, and the janitor had already turned off half the hallway lights. Nolan and I were back in Lab 2B, our chaotic sanctuary, trying to salvage what was left of our exploding project. Only now, every beaker felt like it carried a little more danger, and not the chemical kind. Okay, Nolan said, snapping on his gloves. If we reduce the sodium bicarbonate by 30%, we should stabilize the foam reaction, and, are you even listening? I was trying to, but he'd rolled up his sleeves and his forearms looked like they'd been carved by gods who specialized in hot academic rivals. Yes, I said quickly. Something about foam. Reducing. Got it. He squinted. You're blushing. I'm warm, I muttered. This room is like 90 degrees. Sure, science boy. Blame the thermostat. I turned away before he saw me smile. We started the experiment again, pouring, mixing, adjusting our chemicals. And this time the reaction worked perfectly. Vibrant foam slowly crept up the flask like a controlled volcano, swirling in iridescent pinks and blues. Holy crap, we did it! I shouted. Nolan hooped and spun me around in the air like we'd won a Nobel Prize. I landed against his chest, hard, and neither of us stepped back. His hands were still on my waist. My breath caught in my throat. Our eyes locked. You're kind of glowing, he whispered. Maybe it's the chemicals. Or maybe I'm just radioactive with attraction, I said before I could stop myself. He grinned. You've got jokes and cheekbones. Dangerous combo. I rolled my eyes, but I didn't move away. In fact, I leaned in. Just a little. And so did he. The space between us shrank like a soap bubble ready to pop. Liam, he said, voice low. Yeah. Can I kiss you now? My brain threw warning signs. Do not kiss the enemy. Do not kiss the hot academic rival. But my body, already on fire. Yeah, I whispered. He leaned in. Our lips touched. It was soft. Surprising. Electric. His hand slid into my hair. Mine fisted the front of his shirt. It started slow, hesitant, but quickly deepened like we'd been holding back for way too long. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and I opened for him, warm, hungry, gasping. My back hit the edge of the lab table. He pushed closer. I felt heat bloom in places I shouldn't admit out loud. Beakers rattled. We broke apart, breathless. That was not a controlled reaction, I panted. Nope, he said, lips swollen. But I'd repeat that experiment anytime. We didn't talk much for the next few minutes. Just cleaned up in silence, both of us pretending that we hadn't just made out on a chemistry bench next to a bottle of vinegar and food coloring. But there was something new. A silence charged with possibility. With want. So, I said as we wiped foam off the desk, does this mean we're something? Nolan looked at me, still grinning. We're reaction in progress. On Monday morning, I walked into class feeling like I had a secret. A hot, brilliant, possibly illegal in AP Chem secret. Then Mrs. Brooks dropped another bomb. Science fair teams will now be reviewed for fairness. New partner assignments will be announced at the end of the week. What? Nolan said, nearly dropping his pen. Some students complained about pairings being unbalanced, she explained. It's out of my hands. Nolan turned to me, panic in his eyes. They can't split us up. They might. And just like that, our fragile, foamy little chemistry experiment, scientific and romantic, was under threat. Chapter 4, Jealousy, Java and Judgments. It's funny how one weekend kiss can turn your entire brain into an over-caffeinated squirrel on roller skates. By Monday, I couldn't stop replaying the moment Nolan's lips brushed mine, the way his fingers curled into my hoodie, the way he looked at me like I was a chemical equation he wanted to solve. But now? Now the whole school was buzzing about reassigned partners, and I was spiraling. I was halfway through a sad tray of mystery meat and cold fries when I saw Nolan across the cafeteria. He wasn't alone. He was laughing, with Maddox Lane, the walking thirst trap of our senior class, and the only guy who could make a varsity jacket look like a tailored tux. Maddox. Freaking. Lane. Tall. Confident. Smart enough to hold a beaker. Dumb enough to not care what acid was in it. And Nolan was smiling at him. My stomach dropped like a bad titration experiment. You okay? Asked my friend Riley, eyeing me over her carton of chocolate milk. Fine, I lied. Just hate cafeteria fries. You're glaring at Nolan like he canceled your Netflix account. He might as well have. By the time I got to AP Chem, my mood was somewhere between bitter and ready to snap. Mrs. Brooks dropped the list of potential partner swaps like a grenade. And guess what? Maddox and Nolan were on the same alternate pairing list. I looked at Nolan. He looked at me. Neither of us said anything. But his smile from lunch? Gone. Later that evening, Nolan texted me. Nolan, you free to meet? Off campus. Neutral territory. No lab foam. I agreed, even though my blood was still simmering with jealousy. We met at Cafe Ember, the town's coziest coffee shop, all warm lights and indie playlists. I was already waiting, pretending to scroll my phone while internally writing a dramatic monologue titled Betrayed by Beakers. He walked in looking like a J.Crew ad and ordered his usual, something ridiculous with oat milk and cinnamon foam. Liam, he said, sliding into the booth. You're mad. I'm not mad. You're stirring your coffee like it owes you money. I paused. Fine. I'm not mad, I'm confused. 1 minute we're making out in a chemistry lab. The next you're giggling with Maddox like you're auditioning for a YA romance. I wasn't giggling. You hair-flipped, Nolan. He sighed and leaned forward. Look, I don't want a new partner. I fought to keep our pairing. But if the school splits us up, it's not because I asked for it. So why were you with Maddox? Because I needed a favor. I blinked. What kind of favor? He's my cousin. I froze. He's what? My actual cousin. Through my mom's side. I was asking him to talk to the committee and vouch for our pairing. My soul left my body. So, I was jealous of your cousin. Hot that you were jealous, though. Shut up. The barista passed our table with a flyer. Hey, just a heads up. Next Friday's the Cafe Ember Talent Night. We're looking for student acts. Nolan snatched it, eyes lit up. We should do it. Do what? Sing. Or act. Something. Team bonding. Make the judges see we have chemistry in and out of the lab. Are you high on cinnamon foam? Maybe. But then he looked at me. Really looked. I want to do something that shows them we're a team. For real. And suddenly, I wasn't just falling for his brains. I was falling for the way he believed in us, even when I didn't. As we were walking out, I finally asked the question I'd been holding in all day. So, that night in the lab, did it mean something to you? Nolan stopped walking. Yeah, he said. It did. He turned to face me, expression suddenly serious. But there's something I didn't tell you. My heart stuttered. What is it? My dad. He's one of the science fair sponsors. One of the judges. Boom. And just like that, everything between us, every kiss, every spark, every moment, felt like it might have been a setup. Chapter 5. Mixed Signals and Misfires. There are exactly 3 things I hate in this world. Group projects. Being lied to. Realizing the guy you like might be playing you like a secondhand guitar. Guess which one hit me hardest? I barely slept after Nolan dropped the "my dad's a judge" bomb. At first, I was numb. Then came the mental math. Nolan plus perfect project plus sudden interest in me equals? My brain spit out the worst answer. He was using me. I walked into school the next morning with bags under my eyes, caffeine in my veins, and 1,000 scenarios spinning in my head. I didn't talk to Nolan. He didn't push it. But his eyes kept finding me. And mine kept darting away. By lunchtime, things got worse. Way worse. Maddox, yes, cousin Maddox, was arguing with a guy from Team Redox, our biggest rivals in the science fair. I caught pieces of it as I passed by. Yeah, well, if your team wasn't sleeping together, maybe the results would be fair. Record scratch. Everyone turned. My stomach dropped. Maddox's face went stone cold. What did you just say? You heard me, the guy snapped. He's dating his partner. Probably getting private tutoring from Daddy Judge too. People started whispering. Phones came out. Eyes turned on me. I wanted to vanish. Later that day, I found Nolan leaning against the wall outside the science lab, expression unreadable. You heard what they're saying? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Yeah, he muttered. People suck. They think we're cheating. That this whole thing, us, is fake. He took a step closer. Do you think it's fake? My heart pounded. I don't know what to think, Nolan. You kissed me and it felt real. Then you told me your dad's a judge, and now it all feels like maybe this was just strategy. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Liam, I told you because I wanted to be honest. I didn't know you'd think it meant I was manipulating you. How could I not? Because I've never faked anything with you. His voice cracked on the last word. And for the first time, he looked scared. That night, I opened my backpack and pulled out my notebook, the one we used to log experiment notes. Inside, tucked between our scribbles and diagrams, was a folded piece of paper in Nolan's handwriting. I unfolded it, heart racing. Liam, if you're reading this, you've probably found out about my dad already. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I didn't want it to change how you saw me. I know you think I'm some rich kid with perfect hair and zero substance, but you make me want to be better. Not for the grade. Not for the trophy. For you. Nolan. I stared at the letter for a long time. Then I did something stupid. I smiled. The next day, I walked into the boys' locker room after gym to find Nolan shirtless, toweling his hair. Let's just say the emotional forgiveness process took a hard detour into thirst trap territory. I froze. He noticed. Like what you see? Shut up, I muttered, trying not to combust. You didn't answer my question yesterday. What question? Do you still think this, he gestured between us, was fake? I looked at him, really looked at him. And for once, I didn't deflect. No, I don't think it's fake. Good, he said, stepping close. Because I still want to kiss you. Here. In the locker room. Why not? I was about to tell him why not when he kissed me anyway. Rough. Desperate. Honest. And this time, it felt like we were both finally ready. The next day in chem, Mrs. Brooks clapped her hands and said, Final science fair pairings have been posted. Check the list on the bulletin board. We sprinted to it like contestants on a game show. And there it was. Liam Carter, Nolan Rivers. Project, Controlled Chemical Chain Reactions. Note, to maintain fairness, your results will be reviewed by external judges only. I looked at Nolan. He looked at me. And for once, we both burst out laughing. Chapter 6, Talent Show Turbulence. Let's get one thing straight. I do not sing in public. I barely sing in the shower. And if I do, it's strictly under running water with the door locked and zero audience participation. So when Nolan said, we're doing a duet at Cafe Ember's Talent Night, I assumed he'd hit his head on a beaker. No way, I said. Not happening. Come on, he grinned. People love vulnerable science boys who can carry a tune. We're not a Disney Channel original movie. But we could be. Unfortunately for me. And my dignity. I said yes. Because when Nolan smiles like that, you say yes. We practiced in his basement, surrounded by laundry baskets, ancient science trophies, and the smell of takeout pizza. Nolan played guitar like it was part of his body, Smooth, effortless, annoyingly sexy. I croaked through the first verse like a dying bird. Okay, he said gently. You're not tone deaf. Thanks. You've got raw talent. So, talent, but make it uncooked. Exactly. We'll season it with harmonies and sheer gay charm. Despite myself, I laughed. And we kept practicing. Eventually, our voices synced. My nerves eased. His harmonies wrapped around mine like warm flannel. By the end of the week, I wasn't dreading the performance. I was looking forward to it. What could go wrong? Cafe Ember was packed. String lights twinkled. The barista wore a hat shaped like a foam-topped cappuccino. Very official. We were the final act. Nolan wore a black button-down. I wore my nerves in a sweater I'd never had the guts to wear before. Tight, soft, deep forest green. We stepped on stage. He strummed the first chord. I opened my mouth. And magic happened. We sang a stripped-down cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. Our voices blended like they were meant to. The room fell into a hush. Someone in the front row sniffled. A girl in the back gasped when Nolan brushed his hand against mine during the bridge. By the final note, we were both smiling so hard our faces hurt. The applause was thunderous. And when Nolan leaned in and kissed me, on stage in front of everyone, it wasn't awkward or planned. It was perfect. Until it wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to my phone exploding. Texts. Mentions. DMs. One video was everywhere. A shaky phone recording from the crowd. Not the performance. Not the kiss. Just a clip. The part where Nolan whispered something to me on stage. What the video said he whispered. Let's give them a show. What he actually said. Let's not blow this last chord. But thanks to bad audio and aggressive captions, the internet decided it was proof our whole romance was a publicity stunt. A show. Cue chaos. By second period, people were whispering when I passed. Some were supportive. Others? Not so much. Are they seriously doing all this for clout? Someone muttered. It's kind of genius, though. Use a fake relationship to win science fair points and get famous online? I shoved my way into the chem lab early, hoping to avoid eye contact. Nolan followed a few minutes later, eyes stormy. This is crap, he snapped. Someone edited that video to make it look worse. Doesn't matter. People already believe it. Liam, you believe me, right? I hesitated. It was only a second, but it felt like a lifetime. I don't know anymore. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just nodded, turned, and walked out. And the silence he left behind? It was deafening. I stared at the lab bench, where we'd once mixed vinegar and baking soda like it was a love potion. Now, it was just empty glass. Chapter 7, The Cold War. There's a special kind of tension that comes from sitting next to someone you used to kiss, and now can't even look at. That's what Nolan and I had become, partners in silence. In class, we passed lab notes like business memos. At home, I stared at my phone and willed it to light up with his name. It didn't. Chemistry? Still there. Communication? Dead. 3 days before the science fair, we had to rehearse our final demo. A synchronized chemical chain reaction using 3 timed releases. It was brilliant. It was bold. It was Nolan's idea. And now we were trying to pull it off without actually speaking. Timer 2's off by 0.3 seconds, I mumbled, not looking up. So adjust it, he muttered back. Our teacher, Mrs. Brooks, eyed us over her glasses like a cat watching 2 mice fight. Everything okay, boys? Peachy, I said. Perfect, Nolan said. We both smiled like hostages. She didn't buy it for a second. That night, I got a text from Riley. Riley, just saw Nolan at Java Jungle with Maddox again. Thought you should know. Cue another emotional nosedive. I knew they were cousins. I knew, but my brain didn't care. It served up a fresh platter of jealousy with a side of insecurity. I called Nolan. He didn't answer. I texted him one word, why? He replied, Nolan, seriously? We're doing this again. Me, you're out with him. Again. Nolan, I'm asking for help. He knows one of the external judges. Me, you couldn't have just told me that? Nolan, you don't trust me. Me, because you don't give me reasons to. Nolan, then maybe we shouldn't be doing this. I stared at those words, felt them like a punch to the chest. Then nothing. No more messages. The day before the fair, we did a final test run in the lab after school. Just the 2 of us. Alone. Tense. Everything was set. Tubes, timers, heat plates, release valves. I flicked the first switch. Chain reaction started. Timer 1, perfect. Timer 2, sputtered. Timer 3, boom. A puff of smoke exploded into the room. Harmless, but terrifying. We both jumped back. I coughed through the haze. What happened? You set the wrong delay, Nolan said, voice tight. No, I followed your notes. You clearly didn't. Maybe if you stopped sulking and actually talked to me. Maybe if you didn't assume the worst of me every 5 minutes. We froze, breathing hard. In the silence that followed, the smoke slowly cleared. So did something in my brain. I looked at him. He looked at me. And something cracked. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I've been awful to you. He blinked. What? I was scared. Of liking you. Of being used. Of everyone watching. But mostly of getting hurt. I never wanted to hurt you, he whispered. You weren't just some strategy, Liam. You're the whole plan. My heart stuttered. Then surged. We were still surrounded by chemical residue and scorched tubing. And somehow it was the most romantic setting of my life. He stepped closer. I didn't move. Can I kiss you again? He asked. I nodded. And when his lips met mine, soft, urgent, real, the only thing exploding this time was my heart. We stayed after, fixed the timing, ran it again. Perfect. Everything synced. Every valve. Every color shift. Every single second. And when it was done, Nolan looked at me and smiled that stupid, perfect smile. See, we're still good together. We were always good. I just didn't know how to believe it. Chapter 8, Fair Game. Science fair morning. My palms were sweating. My knees were shaking. And my boyfriend, holy crap, he was my boyfriend now, was stress-eating jelly beans like they were anxiety meds. You good? I asked Nolan. Yeah, totally. Just casually panicking while chewing tropical flavors. I gave him a look. He grinned and tossed a purple one into my mouth. For confidence, he said. I nearly choked on it, but the gesture helped. Kind of. Our school's gym had been transformed into a full-on STEM battleground. Trifold boards. Glowing plasma balls. High schoolers in lab coats looking like they just invented cold fusion. We rolled our project in on a metal cart like mad scientists rolling up a bomb. Nolan had fine-tuned our chemical chain reaction to be triggered by a synchronized heat pulse and time droplet release. 3 sections. 3 colors. 1 perfect cascade. If we could pull it off, we'd win. If we didn't, well, we'd still have each other. Hopefully. Enter Team Redox. Same guys who accused us of sleeping for grades. Now armed with a complicated machine made of PVC pipes, smoke generators, and an attitude problem. They smirked as we walked past. Hope your little love story doesn't blow up in your face, one of them muttered. Thanks, but we prefer controlled explosions. Nolan shot back, not missing a beat. I wanted to high-five him. I also wanted to throw vinegar in their faces. The judges moved slowly. 4 of them. 1 in a bow tie. 1 with a clipboard the size of a surfboard. 1 I recognized from Maddox's contacts. Dr. Avery, head of chemistry at a local university. She raised her eyebrows as she approached our station. So, Mr. Rivers. Mr. Carter. I've heard quite a bit about your experiment. I gulped. We're ready, I said, voice shaking only a little. Nolan gave me a tiny squeeze on the wrist under the table. I nodded and hit the switch. Timer 1. Heat plate activates. Liquid turns electric blue. Crowd, oh. Timer 2. Catalyst drops. Second container glows green, then morphs into gold. Crowd, aha. Timer 3. The final release. Red foam erupts and expands in a cascading swirl, forming the letters. L+N. Some people gasped. Others cheered. 1 teacher dropped her pen. Dr. Avery just arched a brow. Was that intentional? Nolan cleared his throat. The demo represents the power of precise chemistry. How small, time changes can create something stronger together. He looked at me, smiled. And the formula only works when both parts trust each other. Silence. Then, thunderous applause. Someone yelled, "Kiss already." We didn't. Yet. But the tension? Let's just say it was palpable. As the judges left to deliberate, Nolan and I collapsed behind the curtain with 2 water bottles and 1 shared heartbeat. We did it, I breathed. We crushed it. That L+N thing. Tacky or genius? Stupid, I said, grinning. But kind of perfect. He leaned in, eyes soft. You're kind of perfect. Stop flirting, we're in public. Never. He kissed me. And the room didn't explode. But I did. Internally. We lined up with the other contestants. I was sure my heart would leap out of my throat. Third place, the announcer called. Team Redox. Muttered curses. No surprise. Second place goes to Project Plasma Pulse, which meant, and first place for innovation, synchronization, and explosive results, Team Liam Carter and Nolan Rivers. Nolan grabbed my hand. I might have blacked out for a second, but the next thing I knew, we were on stage, holding the trophy together. And when Nolan kissed my cheek for the crowd, this time I kissed him back. Full. On. The. Lips. Let them talk. This wasn't for clout. This was chemistry. Chapter 9, Afterglow. Winning the science fair was surreal. Like walking through a dream with confetti in my hair and Nolan's hand in mine. For the next few days, we were treated like local legends. Teachers stopped us in the hallway. Strangers from other schools followed us on Instagram. Someone even made a fan edit of our kiss set to Perfect by Ed Sheeran, which was both flattering and deeply uncomfortable. But once the glitter settled, something quieter crept in. Something real. I woke up the day after the fair to sunlight slicing through my blinds and a million unread messages on my phone. Text from Nolan. Nolan, you awake, science boyfriend? Me. Unfortunately, my dreams were less stressful. Nolan, want to celebrate tonight? Pizza and bad sci-fi. Me, always. I'll bring snacks. We were finally in that sweet post-chaos calm where things feel normal and magical at the same time. But peace never lasts long, does it? Because then came the email. It was from University of Caltech. Subject line: invitation to join our accelerated chemistry program. I stared at it like it might explode. I hadn't even applied there yet. How did they? Oh, right. Dr. Avery, one of the judges. The email said they were offering me an early spot in their summer prep program. Room, board, full tuition if I accepted. An entire future, wrapped in a polite 4-paragraph letter. One problem? It was in California. Far from home. Far from Nolan. I didn't tell him right away. We curled up on his couch, a greasy box between us, and some aggressively low-budget sci-fi playing on screen. Nolan threw popcorn at my face and kept trying to guess the next plot twist. But I was barely present. Eventually, he noticed. You okay? He asked. You've only insulted this movie twice. That's not normal. I hesitated, then showed him the email. He read it. Quietly. Too quietly. Wow, he said. Caltech. Yeah. Crazy, right? No, I mean it's amazing. You deserve it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I didn't want to have the talk, but it happened anyway. So, when would you leave? He asked. June. If I accept. That's 2 months away. I know. And if you go, we'd be? Long distance. I offered. Or not. The silence between us this time wasn't angry. It was heavy, full of love and fear. I don't want to hold you back, Nolan said softly. This is huge. Your dream. But what if my dream includes you? He looked at me. Then we figure it out, he said. Even if it's hard. Even if we have to watch movies over Zoom. Even if we have to kiss through glass screens. We both laughed, awkward, sad, hopeful. That night, I stared at my ceiling, thinking of lab coats and palm trees, of science dreams and California sun, but mostly of Nolan, of his laughter, of our first kiss, of a world where we could both grow and still come back to each other. And in the middle of the night, I wrote my reply. Subject: Caltech Accelerated Chemistry Program. Reply: thank you for the opportunity. I accept. I'll see you in June. Liam Carter. Chapter 10. The Chemistry of Goodbye. The countdown began the second I hit send on that acceptance email. 2 months. 8 weekends. 56 days to squeeze in forever. And so, Nolan and I did what anyone would do when their time together was ticking down. We lived like every moment mattered. We made a bucket list. It included sneaking onto the school roof at sunset, check. Getting kicked out of Java Jungle for PDA, half check. Riley yelled, "Get a room." But no one kicked us out. Writing each other anonymous love letters and hiding them in library books, check. And one of them made me cry in the math section. Taking one ridiculous photo booth picture per week, each with worse costumes than the last, check and check. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes I'd see Nolan staring into space, quiet in a way that worried me. Sometimes I'd overthink everything. Should I really go? Should we be doing this? But then we'd kiss like we were writing a last sentence on the best chapter of our lives. And it felt right. The sun was way too bright. The gowns were way too hot. Nolan's tassel kept falling in his face, and I couldn't stop laughing at it. But when our names were called, one after the other, and we stepped across the stage to roaring cheers, I felt like I could fly. We did it, Nolan said afterward, holding our diplomas like fragile treasures. We're geniuses in polyester robes. Sexy geniuses. Don't let the principal hear you say that. We kissed behind the bleachers while our families took blurry photos and complained about parking. It was chaotic. It was perfect. The day I started packing for Caltech, Nolan helped. He folded shirts with military precision and kept cracking jokes to hide the fact that his eyes looked red. You know, for someone going to the Caltech, you sure own a lot of stupid socks. I thrive on chaos. He held up one of my photo booth pictures. Take this. Why? So you remember the genius who helped you win that trophy when you're off curing cancer or turning Gatorade into fuel. Nolan, just take it. The night before my flight, Nolan dragged me to our high school's chemistry lab. What are we doing here? I asked. Science, he grinned. And closure. He pulled out a small, makeshift experiment, a simple reaction that released a faint glow when the two liquids mixed. When the lights went off, it spelled, I love you, nerd. Nolan. No pressure. Just. I needed to say it once before you go. I took his hand, pulled him in close. I love you too, nerd. And then I kissed him like it was the first and last time. Because in some ways, it was both. Airports are the worst. Goodbyes in airports? Actual torture. He walked me to security, fingers laced with mine the entire time. Don't forget me when you're hanging out with hot lab assistants. Only if you forget me when you're charming your way through East Coast colleges. Not happening. We kissed. It was soft, sweet, full of everything we didn't need to say out loud anymore. You'll come visit? I asked. Try and stop me. Long distance. Long experiment. We'll test it. Refine it. Ace it. I laughed. Teared up. Then I walked through security. And didn't look back. Until I did. And saw him standing there. Mouth twitching into a crooked smile. Holding up a sign he'd made with black marker and terrible handwriting. I'd fail chem for you. 1 year later. Caltech was everything I hoped and feared and more. And Nolan? Still mine. We called every night. Watched movies in sync. Mailed stupid gifts and terrible socks. He visited during spring break. I visited during fall. The long distance sucked. But the love? It never faded. Turns out real chemistry doesn't vanish with distance. It evolves. It deepens. And it lasts.